Good morning, everyone. My name is María de Reyes Barrenengoa, and today I'm going to explain to you through this presentation the article from The Economist on which I have worked. The article is entitled Checks and Imbalance, and the main question that we will answer is the world economy entering a wage price spiral? So, in order to best explain the main topic of this presentation, which is checks and imbalances, I should first give you some context. So, as you may know, in the decade after the global financial crisis, inflation rarely exceeded central bank targets and wage growth was very slow. A clear example of stability in these aspects are countries such as United Kingdom, Italy, and Japan, whose purchasing power of the average hourly wage was approximately the same at the beginning of the pandemic as in the middle 20s. Consider, for example, the case of United States, a rare triumph because it has experienced a wage growth of 2.9% between 2015 and 2019, while keeping inflation below 2%. So today, however, the recovery from the pandemic has brought about a surprising change since both wage growth and inflation are an unusual high. In fact, to better understand this event, we can return to the previous case, the case of United States, where we can see that hourly wage have increased by 4.6% during the year until September, while consumer price inflation of 5.4% is wiping out all of these possible gains. And another example that perfectly shows what is happening is the case of Germany, where inflation has reached 4.1% and the main public sector union is asking for 5% wage increase. So right now, you can see in the slide a graph that shows very clear the situation in the United States and what I already explained. So, after having put you in context with the situation we were experiencing a few years ago and how we find ourselves today, now I'm going to focus on what would be the causes of the increase in prices and the wage growth. So, I'm going to start with the causes of the prices increases, which are quite clear because they focus on the idea that unbridled demand for goods has run up against bottlenecks in supply chains and energy prices have soared. But regarding the causes of wage growth, everything changed because we can say that there is not such a clear idea since everything is more mysterious due to the fact that in most places employment is lower than before the pandemic. So, however, we can conclude that what is happening right now is that workers seem to be unwilling or unable to accept the plentiful jobs on offer. So, after all, labor shortage may reflect how difficult it is to move between professions and places as economies go through an unusual adjustment. Another very important factor in this context is the fear of the virus and the lingering effects of state support for family income that could ultimately keep workers inactive for different reasons. And in addition, as a result of the pandemic, many people have decided to put family and leisure before their careers. So right now I'm going to talk about direct problems because in a direct way the increases in salaries make life difficult for central banks, and although many people consider high inflation to be temporary, the reality is that excessive wage growth could be the next factor driving up prices, especially if workers demand higher wages in the face of future increases in the cost of living, and ensures that exacerbates exactly what it seeks to compensate. So, after explaining the causes and the direct problems that the increase in prices and the wages can cause, now I'm going to focus on what would be the three guidelines to avoid lasting inflation. So, first of all, we can say that company could absorb higher wages on their margins instead of raising prices. The second one could be that productivity growth could make higher real wage increases sustainable. And finally, inactive workers could return to work, thus slowing wage growth. But moreover, I should add with respect to the last point, the recent research suggests that the share of labor in the value created by firms has remained fairly stable in much rich countries over the past decades, and due to since it has already risen by about 1 percentage point on average in big rich countries during the pandemic, and that's why it is considered that will be no longer be much room for further increases. And now I'm going to talk about productivity because while productivity growth through the return of inactive workers to the labor force may be seen as a reasonable hope, there is also a problem with it. And the problem is that the lags make it difficult to base policies on productivity trends, as they are super difficult to measure in real time, and it takes a long time for central bank decisions to be fully translated into the economy, which in other words means that policymakers should focus on labor supply, and its recovery has been disappointing so far. Although it's considered that perhaps when the bank's accounts run out and the pandemic subsides completely, there will be some slack in 2022, causing wage growth to slow. So finally, I would like to recommend some articles that in my opinion are very interesting and that can help you to better understand everything that I have explained, or even to learn about topics that you didn't know. In total, there are 5 articles, and in order not to stop on each of them, I'm going to leave the link to all of them written on the slide so that you can access them directly in a very simple way. So thank you so much for your attention.